Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or MOUNJARO? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or MOUNJARO. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 MOUNJARO TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Alive on the moon, Jaro, it's on the Penalive, with your host David Knapp.
Thank you, clap track, and happy Thursday night, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm Dave Knapp, man on the MOUNJARO. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, MOUNJARO, Zepbound, that pen, maybe the single dose vials, TBD. But whatever you're on, we're so glad you're here. We're here to learn more about the medications we're on, the issues that we face, and really we're just here to do it in community, right? For my money, this is the best community in the GLP-1 space. Thank you for being here tonight. We've got such an excellent show tonight. We're doing a giveaway here. We have a OG Mounjarian. Michelle Hess, been teasing this for weeks, is going to come on and share a little bit about maintenance. You all been waiting to hear about maintenance. Let me know in the chat if you want to hear about maintenance. Super excited to bring her in. And then if you follow along in the GLP-1 news world, you know that our Release the Vials campaign was highlighted in Bloomberg this week by a very awesome journalist. Her name is Madison Muller, and she was kind enough to highlight this movement that we've created to hopefully put some pressure for Eli Lilly to release the vials. We're going to get into that tonight, but Madison is here to share a little bit more about her story. So excited to have her on tonight as well, and just very generous of her to give some more of her time to the channel. So make sure you welcome her in the chat as well. But as you know, we've got a rhythm and a routine to this show. We like to start by doing just a little bit of housekeeping. You want mint for pillow? Housekeeping. We got some awesome stuff to talk about. First of all, the podcast hit 5,000 downloads this week. Thank you. Thank you for that. The podcast is very new, just a couple of months old. And I just wanted to find a place where we could gather, the weekly news in the world of GLP-1s and just give it to you in a bite-sized chunk, 15 minutes. So it's your one-stop shop for incretin mimetic GLP-1 news. Of course, we'll be featuring some more of Bloomberg articles in there. So thank you for helping us get to 5,000 downloads. Thank you to everybody who's gone there and given it a 5-star rating and review. Very much appreciate that. So yeah, we touched on it a little bit. Our guest tonight, Madison Mueller was kind enough to highlight the Release the Vials campaign in Bloomberg this week. If you did not get a chance to check that article out, I will link it in the description of the show notes tonight, so you can go over there and check that out. It's not the only article that has been written by Madison on the topic. There are many. You've probably read some of them, but she has stayed on top of the shortages, even getting into some of the origins of the medications. So just covering it in a way that nobody else in media has covered it, really. So make sure you check out that article. We are so glad to have that campaign highlighted, and I think that we are going to make some things happen with that. So very, very, very exciting in the world of On the Pen this week. And of course, when you have something highlighted in media like that, it's sort of one thing begats another. So I teased on my TikTok stories the other day about something else that's going on here. So next week, we will be talking about Release the Vials on Yahoo Finance. So that's the update that y'all have been waiting for. Mimi just became a new member. Thank you for becoming a member, Mimi. It's good to have you. Mimi is in the retatrutide trial. She'll be sharing with us in a couple of weeks on this show about her journey in the retatrutide trial. So super excited. And she's, I believe, Mimi, you're on the vial too, right? In Australia. So yeah, lots to talk to her about. Super excited to talk to her about that. We did talk all month long in March about how 10% of all the gifts, all the memberships, we were going to give 10% of that back to one of the paid members to help offset the cost of their medication for this month. I tried feverishly before I came on here to try to get this thing to stream to the TV, but I can't. So again, you're just going to have to take my word for it, but I got a big spinny wheel here, and we are going to spin the wheel. And so whoever this lands on, all you need to do is just shoot me an email or a message on TikTok or Instagram, Twitter, wherever there's DMs, and send me your Venmo or Cash App, and we'll get you the $100. So we'll just run this wheel here. Super, super excited about this because I'm hoping that it goes to somebody that this can really help out. And Anna Hoover. Oh, Anna, I'm so happy for you. Anna, you sweetheart, I'm so happy for you. You were just talking about how hard it was to find your medicine. I couldn't have chosen a better name there. So Anna, send me a message. If you don't have Venmo or you don't have Cash App, no worries. We'll find a way to get it to you. But Anna Hoover, congratulations. I don't know if you're here, Anna. You usually are. So congratulations. That's awesome. Very happy about that. We're going to go ahead and continue that thread of the giving back for the month, for the next month too. I think we'll just keep it going. This is fun. So congratulations to Anna. Leslie with the $9.99 super sticker. Really appreciate that. We're going to keep this show rolling because we got so much to pack in tonight. You know that we like to do a little covering of the news, although not as much here anymore because we have the podcast, but we still like to cover a little bit of news. Let's do it. What's fresh this week? What is fresh? So tons of information this week, but how could we not talk about the single dose vial? So a couple of weeks ago, I started noticing some changes on the FDA website, and I warned you. I said, last time this happened for MOUNJARO, we saw single dose vials approved. And I said, I think we might be seeing single dose vials from Eli Lilly approved by the FDA. And within a couple of days, that's exactly what we saw. We saw an update. So the single dose vials have been approved. Now, of course, I got to take a drink here. Of course, before when the information came out, the questions that I was getting bombarded was, when are they going to come out? Do I think they're actually going to release these? How much are they going to cost? So all of these questions I'm just getting pelted with. And obviously I don't know. All I can do is speculate. But the more I ruminate on this and the more I talk to people about this, the more I think that the single dose vials for Zepbound will be here within a matter of weeks. Let me just run down why I think that is. First of all, why would they go through the trouble of getting these approved if they didn't intend to release them? We know that Zepbound is strictly available on the American market, whereas Mounjaro, they told us all along that the single-dose vials were intended for ex-US markets, and that's exactly what happened. You saw them in Canada, you saw them in Australia. Now, one of the things that people always say to me is, well, Canada and Australia are in shortage too for the vials, so how are the vials going to help? And I would just say, you got to think a little bit deeper about this. Canada and Australia both have the ability as governments to basically arbitrate the cost of the medication with Eli Lilly in a way that we don't in the United States. So the end result is we pay a lot more for the medication, but that means that they make a lot more off the medication. So all of their manufacturing, again, in my estimation, has been tapped out for Zepbound and the production thereof. So I think the shortages are more about where they're using their manufacturing capacity to leverage the most profit. That's their responsibility to their investors. So I don't think it's a vial shortage. And so the other thing that you saw in the past couple of weeks is Eli Lilly announced that Humalog, which is their insulin product, which is made in what? Single dose vials that you drop with a syringe, are going to be in shortage for a period of time. Why might that be? Well, maybe they're using the single dose vials for something else other than Humalog. Maybe filling them with Zepbound, perhaps. The reality is, if you just do some quick math, they're writing around 100,000 new prescriptions of Zepbound per week. We know already that they can't keep up with supply. We know that. Now they're writing 100,000 prescriptions a week. That is 1.6 million extra pens that they need every month on top of what they're already selling. In no world will they be able to keep up with that with the manufacturing capacity that they currently have. Now, we know that their production facilities in North Carolina are coming on site. They're actually doing something very unique at that site. They're not bringing the whole site on all at once. They're bringing it on line by line. So as different manufacturing lines open up, they are running production there. So it doesn't have to be completed, in other words, for us to get more vials. They're bringing it on line by line. They're never going to be able to keep up with 1.6 million extra pens a month. They're just not going to be able to. And so in order for them to not say no to new people getting on the platform, they're going to have to find a new indication, a new presentation, a new presentation of the medication that they can crank out fast. And what can they crank out fast? Single dose vials. And they know that they are bleeding customers right now to the compounded versions, which are in single dose vials. So I firmly believe that we will see an update on the Eli Lilly earnings call as early as, I think, April 30th. It's scheduled for. They moved it back from the 25th. I think that we will hear them say that they will be releasing single-dose vials of Zepbound and probably Mounjaro in the United States in the next, let's say, 8 weeks. That's my guess. That's my bold prediction on this. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think I am. So that's my bold prediction on the pens. Will they be cheaper? That's the other big question that I get. No, they won't be cheaper. Listen, we learned last week that these Ozempic pens can be made for less than $5, right? So if these cost $5 a piece, that means 1 month is about $20, and the medication costs $1,200. What's $20 on $1,200? The cost isn't in the pen. The cost is in the liquid gold inside of it. And I don't care if you give it to me in a bathtub. I will take it. So it doesn't matter the presentation. I don't think the price is going down on these. So if you're holding your breath for that, no. But the plus side is you see payers adopting the medication. You see formularies adding Zepbound. So the accessibility for people who have the coverage is getting better. And that is our silver lining. So we're going to keep moving right along. I did a video on that topic. If you want to check that out a little bit later on, feel free to go check out that video where I kind of run through this a little bit more in depth. But let's keep moving. Let's take out the trash. There's always some trashy news to talk about this week, and we got a little bit of that. This week is no exception. Let's get right into this. This one was wild, and this one just came across my desk today. So I had somebody send me a message that was like, hey, I gave up on trying to find the branded medication, which I'm hearing more and more, which is just another case for the single dose vials, right? They were on branded medication. They did everything they could to stay on branded medication. They're like, I'm going to compound. Well, they went to a place local to their area and got a quote for their 1 month supply of 15 milligrams. Does anybody want to take a stab in the chat at how much this compounding pharmacy was charging for a 1 month supply of 15 milligrams of tirzepatide? Anybody want to take a guess? Drop it in the chat. Let me know what you think it is. While I'm waiting for some guesses, one of the videos that I did on the topic this week was just basically asking, what are the crazy things that you have done or extreme lengths that you have gone to get your medication? And what spurred this was actually Madison's article in Bloomberg from yesterday about the Zepbound shortages, where one of the medical providers that she was talking to was actually saying that she had a patient that was using and calling around to pharmacies around the country and then using an app to have somebody send that medication to her through the mail. And I just thought, that is extreme. That is extreme. But I know that there are so many stories like that. And I'm just going to drop a few of these in the window here. You know, these are people on TikTok, you know, called 22 different pharmacies within a 100-mile radius and had to go down to the 10 milligram just to stay on the medication, right? This person called over 20 pharmacies. And luckily that's one of the good stories. It ended well. They ended up finding it 5 minutes from their mom's house. So their mom picked it up. This one got a script for 2 doses lower due to the shortage. This one called over 40 places and is switching to Wegovy. Are you listening, Eli Lilly? I hope so. This person thought that this was a genius move because they had called 20 different pharmacies. This one called 18 different pharmacies and found 1.5 milligram in stock an hour and a half away. And listen, I've got 20 more of these that I could drop in here, but you get the picture. People are struggling, and these are real people. These aren't just imaginary figures. These are real people driving real miles. Somebody else talked about how they drove in the worst winter storm they've ever driven in, an hour and a half away to get their medication. Like, this is impacting people in a big way, and I hope that Eli Lilly is listening. So for everybody who guessed, the cost at this particular place, they were charging over $900 for a 1 month supply of compounded medication. Now, I just got to throw something at you, right? Because so many people come at Big Pharma as if they are this big, evil, greedy corporation. But you know what these compounding pharmacies selling these for $999 didn't do? A single clinical trial. A single clinical trial. A single piece of research. They didn't pay a single researcher to develop the molecule. They simply just copied the work that Eli Lilly did and the millions and millions, if not billions of dollars they put into developing tirzepatide, copied the formula, had it made on the cheap, dropped it in a vial, and sold it to you for the same freaking price that Eli Lilly is selling MOUNJARO out of pocket. That's crazy to me. So it isn't just a greed problem with Big Pharma. This exists throughout the world. So let's stop pretending that this problem is isolated to one industry. This is crazy. So that's the fake news for the week. I was dumbfounded. I thought she was going to say $600, $700. And even that, I'm just thinking that's robbery. That is such, I mean, I can't imagine trying to take advantage of people in that way, but $900 is just insane. I do want to take one quick moment to acknowledge that we've got BJ Davis in the house. BJ, it's good to have you here. And OG, we've just seen some of these old names pop up this is our 60th episode tonight, 60. And some of y'all have been here since day one, including the wonderful Michelle Hess, who is back. She was actually on, I believe, the first couple of episodes that we did of On the Pen way back. And she was talking about the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act before a single person on social media was talking about it. And so we've been talking about the TROA Act over here for a long time because of Michelle. And of course, if you don't know about the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, please look it up. It is a way that Congress can essentially repeal an old, antiquated law that blocks people on Medicare from getting obesity medicine, a law that was put in place to protect older folks from the stimulants that existed 20, 30 years ago. That was all that existed for weight loss at the time, pretty much. These certainly are not that. These are metabolic drugs and amazing drugs, and they should have access to it. So TROA would repeal that law. And as we know, once the public sector adopts standards of care, the private sector tends to follow along. So kudos to Michelle for being one of the first to talk about that. She's here tonight to talk to us a little bit about maintenance, and I can't wait. Michelle, welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be back. How are you, Dave?
I am so good. Better that you're here. Thanks for being here and giving us some of your time again. It's so good to see you.
It's so good. I always have so much fun on this show, and I'm looking forward to doing these maintenance spots. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And, so it's one of those things that, I get questions about maintenance all the time, and like maintenance and maintaining your goal weight is like so far off my radar, but it's something that I wanted to provide the community with some guide rails on, because I get asked about it all the time. And, of course I'm not the guy to talk to about absolutely every facet of everything about this journey. So this would definitely be one of them. I would say nutrition would be another one. I'm feeling my way through all this too. So I just want to hand it over to you to talk about the segment that you're going to be doing here periodically on the show, and then give us a little bit about what you prepared for tonight, if you would.
Sure. Well, first of all, I wanted to say I've only been in maintenance since I started maintenance in October, but I was in bariatric maintenance for a long time. So I had maintained an 80-pound weight loss even before I got to this point. I had some regain, but now I've lost over 170 pounds from the beginning of my journey in 2016. And so I've been preparing and practicing for maintenance for a long time. So I hope I have enough insight to help people. Obviously, not everybody's going to want to do things the way I do them, but I do follow a lot of people who have maintained their weight for a long time. And those people lost their weight in different ways. And I think I've learned a lot, and I'm happy to share that. So we have, hopefully are going to have a different topic every week, or I may not make it every single week, but we'll be close. So today I want to talk about, I don't want to really call it choosing a goal weight, but let's say figuring out your maintenance weight is what I'd like to talk to you about a little bit. The thing is, we don't actually have as much control over that as people want to think, which I don't want to be negative about it. But the thing is, sometimes our maintenance weight finds us. Mine is much lower than I thought it would be. And some people are going to have a higher maintenance weight. And if you've never been a certain weight in your lifetime, the chances that you're going to be a weight that you just pick out of the air is probably not going to happen. It will happen for some people, but not many. So I think we have to temper our expectations as well, and be ready to see where our naturally occurring maintenance weight is. And to do that, we have to find a sustainable lifestyle. And so we'll get into nutrition on another portion of that. I'm glad you brought that up, Dave. But basically, a range is really helpful. Instead of saying, I want to be 150 pounds, which is what a lot of people actually choose, especially females. They choose, whether they're in bariatrics or they're on the pen, they often choose 150 pounds. And that's good for some people. It's a little high for me, but I was actually happy at that weight, but that's not where I landed. So picking a range is really helpful. Learning your fluctuations is also very helpful. And to do that, you can use your average moving weight instead of using the weight from day to day. And that's actually helpful with weight loss as well. But your average moving weight, you can track that, in a spreadsheet if you want to, but I use Happy Scale to see how much you tend to fluctuate. With me, it's about 8 pounds. Since I've been in maintenance, it's kind of getting down to where it's about 5 pounds. Some people don't fluctuate much at all, but I've seen people who fluctuate as much as 20 pounds, believe it or not. And that might be a really tall person as opposed to a short person like me. So figuring out a range that's somewhere between 5 and 20 pounds that you want to stay within can be really helpful. And using the moving average is also helpful. You won't get as discouraged. And you can do the moving average with a daily weight, which is what I prefer, but you can also do it with a weekly weight. You could try it with a monthly weight, but it's going to be a lot harder. And if you only weigh monthly, I know some people like to do that because the scale bothers them. But once you get to maintenance, hopefully that won't be the case so much. If you only do a monthly weight, you're much more likely to have some regain. And excuse me, I got to look at my notes for just a second. So there's that. And then the other thing I like to say is maintenance is just the beginning. Maintenance is not the end. This is where it really gets started. It must be sustainable and enjoyable. That's why I don't like meal replacements very much during the journey, because if you do a lot of meal replacements, are you going to be able to do those for the rest of your life? Probably not. So the difference between what you're doing in maintenance and what you're doing now is only a few hundred calories. So when you're choosing your goal, you want it to be something to where you enjoy what you're eating enough to where you're happy. And so that's mostly what I have to say about maintenance. But I mean, choosing a goal. But along the way, we'll get into more topics like practicing maintenance along the way. 80/20 is something that I do to make my maintenance journey enjoyable. And then some of us have very little control. I went over probably 30 pounds under what I thought I would. and
Wow.
and I had no control over that. I mean, I was lowering my dose and I just kept going and going. And then,
Wow.
yeah. And then some people may want to shoot for a lower weight and try to give themselves a little cushion, because some regain is natural. They found that with all weight loss methods. So,
Mhm.
I mean, those are my thoughts on choosing a maintenance range. And I like to stick with the range and not say just a weight. My range is like 113 to 122. It sounds big, but I fluctuate a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome. Super practical advice. And I know that people have been really, really clamoring for that kind of advice as far as how to determine that number. I think, one of the pitfalls that I hear about most often is that people set a super unrealistic number initially, right?
Right.
And so I think having a realistic number in mind, and then, hey, if your body allows it to go lower, then you just sort of recalibrate. I think of Janine is another person who I think she had a higher goal weight,
Mhm.
and then she just kind of kept losing. And so, yeah, it's excellent topic of conversation. Really appreciate you sharing a little bit tonight about that, and look forward to what you have in the future. Thanks for coming on and sharing tonight.
Oh, I'm happy. And just really quick, being flexible, you're right, is a big part of it. So being flexible about everything as you go along will create more success. But I'm glad to be here, and I can't wait to talk about other important things that I hope people want to hear about. And if you want to hear about something specific, please put it in the comments. I'm paying attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again, Michelle. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
See
Bye.
ya. Awesome to have Michelle back again. She was on like the first 3 episodes of this show way back 60 episodes ago. So awesome information about maintenance. If you enjoyed that, make sure you give Michelle some love in the chat. We're going to bring on our special guest for tonight, which is Madison Muller from Bloomberg. But before we do, I'm interested in hearing. So one of the things that we've been talking about, one of the things that Madison has been covering very closely over at Bloomberg, is these shortages, right? And so we saw finally this week that the FDA added Zepbound to the shortage. Like, we hadn't seen Zepbound pop up on that list until this very week. And then all we saw pop up was the 12.5 and the 5 milligram. If you have had problems finding your dose of MOUNJARO or Zepbound, in the chat, put MOUNJARO and then the dosage, or Zepbound and then the dosage. Just an informal poll. Drop that in the chat right now if you've had issues finding your specific medication in your specific dose. I'm super curious to hear from all of you. So we are super excited to bring Madison on to the channel tonight. She's super kind to give us some of her time, in addition to that piece that she did highlighting the release of vial. So we're going to bring in, usually we call it our hot channel, right? Which she does have a hot TikTok channel. She's like a TikTok star right now over in the GLP-1 community. So we're going to welcome on tonight's hot channel.
Hot channel.
Welcome, Madison.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. This is a whole deal over here, huh?
This is awesome. And I couldn't get it on my computer, so sorry that I'm vertical.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Matter of fact, we can do this even better.
Oh,
Boom.
perfect.
Problem
Amazing.
solved. Yeah, thank you to the producer for doing that. So Madison, you're a health reporter with Bloomberg, and I am so curious. Well, first of all, I'm curious, how did you end up getting into reporting and journalism in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually originally wanted to be a doctor, so the fact that I'm now doing like healthcare journalism is cool for me because I just get to talk to doctors all day. So it's sort of like I'm still doing what I wanted to do in a sense, but I didn't have to go to medical school to do it. So I'm talking to doctors, I'm learning about different health conditions, talking to different patients every day. And that's like really fun for me. That's what I've always been interested in. And so it's like a full circle moment for me. And it's a cool experience.
Very cool. And at what point did sort of the focus shift from, general health stuff to like being a lot of focus on the GLP-1 medications?
Yeah, so it's been interesting because I feel like it was all COVID all the time for obviously a few years. And then right after COVID, there was like I've covered a lot of different parts of the healthcare industry, and I've done more in journalism as well. Like I was in DC, I did some political reporting as well. And so I mean we have a team of like I think we have 10 reporters on our health team at this point, and obviously Bloomberg covers business, and we're very company focused. So like a lot of our reporters have specific companies that they follow and that they're assigned to. And one of our reporters on our team, my colleague Emma Court, who's amazing, she was covering GLP-1 drugs sort of like before they were a big thing, when Ozempic first came out, and before like I mean, this is 2018, 2019, before it like really entered the public consciousness the way that it has now.
Yeah.
And so she was covering it like right at the beginning. And then she recently left Bloomberg, I mean, temporarily just to go do an MBA program at Columbia. She's super smart. And my boss was like, hey, do you want to cover Eli Lilly, GLP-1s, like big topic right now? And I was like, I would love to. So this was last year. And that's kind of how I started covering it. And it's like, I came into it at a time when I just hit the ground running. Like there was so much news constantly. It was kind of like I had to get up to speed really quickly, but it's been really fun. And I think like really rewarding also.
Yeah. And you and I have kind of talked a little bit offline just about how it's just constant. Like you never get bored with it because it's always evolving. There's always news. There's always an angle to cover. There's never a shortage really of content. So
Yeah.
as a reporter, it's sort of like a gold mine. It's like this gift that keeps on giving. As far as GLP-1 medications, and this is kind of putting you on the spot. So if you don't have an answer, it's fine. But what has been like maybe your favorite angle or aspect of GLP-1 medications to cover? Is
Yeah.
it maybe more the patient side, more the company side, or?
It's a good question. I mean, I think at first, like just because of Bloomberg and our audience, like my coverage was very business focused at first. Like I was just covering, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly and like earnings calls and business updates and a lot of the studies that are released. Like those are sort of the, I think, foundation of the beat. And like that stuff's fun and it's really important because it's just like it's good to know the company and know the board of directors and who the executives are and like know what they're talking about and know how to cover an earnings call. So those things really like laid the foundation, but they're kind of run of the mill. They're not like super exciting. And so I think then like layering on top, once we've got that foundation, covering some of the like scientists that, back in the 80s, back in the 70s, were like working on GLP-1 and getting to talk to them and hearing their stories and hearing about how like no one cared about what they were doing back in the 80s. And it was so frustrating. And there was like such a tight knit small group of scientists who were like, GLP-1's really important. And maybe one day it could be used for obesity. And, like no one cared. They were like, literally, we would publish studies and a couple of other scientists would read them, but like that was basically it. And then I think now also like talking to patients more and covering the culture around the drugs and like this community is something that's so important too, because it's moving the conversation forward about obesity and diabetes as diseases also. And like it's such an important conversation to have. So I think that element now is amazing, and I'm grateful to be able to cover that. So it's like, I mean, all of the elements of there's just so much to cover within this space. It's kind of incredible. It's just like a very, very rich topic, and there's so much to dig into all the time.
Yeah. Oftentimes I'm asked by just sort of like my buddies or family members, they're like, how do you talk about this every week? And I'm like, I don't talk about it every week. I talk about it every day.
Yeah.
There's that much stuff to talk. Like there's at least one good video to make every day about something new that's going on. And, like even today, I don't know if you saw this, but, a study came out today. Lixacenatide. I heard of it, but I didn't realize that Sanofi had a GLP-1 product. But lixacenatide was studied in Parkinson's. And it's a real convoluted study to read from a layperson's perspective, because it's like this weird Parkinson's metric that I don't understand. But essentially what they found is that the intervention with lixacenatide, which is an old school peptide, reduced Parkinson's symptoms. And it's like, somebody sent me this article and they're like, hey, have you seen this? And I'm like, no, but like, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. It's like these doctors back then had to be like, this could change everything. I mean, it's literally every day. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, diabetes, obesity, sleep apnea, osteoarthritis. Like,
it's incredible. It's crazy. And there's another big Parkinson's study actually coming out, I think over the summer, and it's coming from University of College London. So like that will be a good one to watch too. I think it was the trial was a bit longer than this one that came out today. So like that's just going to add more evidence, and then we'll have Novo Nordisk's Alzheimer's trial next year. Like they're studying this in so many different diseases and indications right now. It is crazy.
Yeah, like Natalie said, what does this drug not help? And that's like one of the things that I've been saying. I was like, people don't understand. I mean, I think right now, especially, it's getting pigeonholed by, I think, in the larger meta conversation within society as weight loss medicines,
right?
Which even that is a bit of a misnomer, because that just makes it sound like the old school, rainbow pills, the fen, but they're actually fixing metabolic disorder, hormonal dysregulation, all these things that are part of, the scientific part of obesity, the disease, right?
Yeah.
And so you said it. It's just like identifying the reality that obesity is a disease. It is a chronic disease. Is so important to the advancement of this narrative. And I find that having these conversations within the community is a really empowering thing to go out then and have those conversations in the real world. It can be a bit of an echo chamber here, because you and I can go here. We go, obesity is a disease, but the second this conversation gets out, it's like, oh, you're lazy, you're slow, you lack willpower, you whatever. And I always say that's why Oprah, for whatever people think about Oprah, why she lends such a credible voice to this, because it's like that woman has essentially conquered the world. If obesity is a disease of willpower, you're telling me that Oprah doesn't have it. And I refuse to believe that, so I think she, for whatever people think of her, I think she is such a great shining example of, obesity is a disease, and it is a lifelong disease and a lifelong battle that people fight. And it's not about willpower. It's about so much more. Awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and even, I mean, Oprah is someone also who like has access to everything. I mean, the best personal trainers, the best nutritionists, the best gym, in LA, whatever it is, like research. Has everything at her fingertips, and has struggled with this for so long. And her weight has been like such a subject of criticism and public conversation for so long. So it's like, if someone who doesn't, who has all of these resources and access to like the best of the best has struggled with this for decades, then it should be an indication that there's something more going on.
Absolutely. She said it. It was like profound, because I haven't ever considered myself like a big Oprah fan, but she said something. She's like, making fun of my weight was a national sport.
Right.
And I'm like, every fat joke when I was a kid was about Oprah.
Wow.
And you're younger, so for you it's probably different. But like when I was a kid, it was like, your mama's so fat, or it was an Oprah joke.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it was like, it's crazy. And so, yeah, nobody has lived it more publicly. I didn't mean for this to take the Oprah turn, but it did. So you've covered GLP-1s. You've covered pretty much all angles of GLP-1s. Let's talk a little bit about the Release the Vial campaign, because I think like it's part of a broader dialogue about accessibility as it relates to just people being able to stay on the medication that are currently on it. I'm curious, do you think, what are your thoughts about the potential for the vials being released as a way to increase accessibility to the medication in the short term? You think that's something that's going to happen?
I mean, I did finally get a response from Eli Lilly. By the way, I know that, it took 24 hours for them to respond to when I reached out for comment for the Release the Vials article. I guess actually it would have been, no, I got, sorry, for the shortage, the FDA shortage one yesterday, it took 24 hours. But when we reached out for the vials story, like what we had heard from them is they basically said, we're looking at options to help support supply globally, like very blanket statement of, and then I asked, does this mean that we're going to get vials in the US anytime soon? And they didn't respond. So, which is, I don't know. I've told you, like, sometimes they do typically respond. Sometimes it's a day later, sometimes it's several hours later. Usually it's sort of like a generalist statement. But it is like there is purpose to getting an FDA approval for something. Like, getting FDA approval for something is not an easy process. Drug makers talk about this all the time, that it's a slow and difficult process often to work with the FDA to get something approved. And like, that's always been a big complaint from the drug industry. And so for them to get an approval is significant, I think. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with the vials. And I do think, like, you're right that earnings are coming up at the end of the month. And that's a time when historically, every quarter, that's like usually where we get the most color and commentary about supply and production and what they're doing to ramp up supply or help with shortages. And so I do think that that's a time when we could potentially find out more information about this. I don't know. It really is a big question mark for me. I'm kind of right there with you. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think you make a good point. Like, you don't go through the trouble for nothing. And I think if you read between the lines in that comment where they say, we're looking at ways to increase supply globally. Well, Zepbound isn't a global product. Zepbound is unique to the United States market. They've told us that
That's a good point.
MOUNJARO is not rebranded overseas. So
Right.
the Zepbound vials getting approved would be for the United States market.
Right.
And releasing vials here in Zepbound would help the supply globally also. It would just take these things are super complicated. I don't know if you ever had your hands on one of these and actually take them apart, but there's a lot of moving pieces to these pens.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be super cool. I'm curious, like from the earnings call side, they're not used to what we've been doing here. So I've been following Eli Lilly earnings calls now for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Every call, we do a video, we do a live stream, and we go over it. That has got to be a weird thing for them to consider when they're doing those things. Is now, like, social media people, the average lay person on these medications are listening to this and then, making their voices heard in response to what they say. I do wonder how they craft what they say plays into that. Do you think it does it all, or do you think it's still just like completely investor focused? And
I was shocked, like, because I'm not, as you know, like, I recently joined TikTok. I've tried to stay away from it for a while just because I'm like, I don't know, I try to limit my time on social media in general, and TikTok is like so addictive that I personally was like, oh, I don't want to make a TikTok. But then I started realizing, like, oh my God, I'm missing so much in the GLP-1 space because I'm not on TikTok. And so then I made one just to sort of like monitor the conversation, what was going on. And I saw your videos like about the earnings calls, and I saw others, and I was like, oh my God, real people are watching their earnings calls. It's not just us and investors and analysts. Like patients are watching the earnings calls, and that's like really, I think, unique. And I do think they probably do realize that. And I mean, I don't know how much it plays into what they say in the earnings calls, but like they have to realize that's happening, and this community is so well educated. Like you guys know what's going on better than anyone. I mean, you're educating your doctors, you're educating like
Right.
the public, and you're holding the company responsible. Like that's, I think, a really key piece, and that's an important part of this campaign as well. It's like the patients are holding the company responsible, and that's powerful.
I 100% agree. And, you know, I go back to when I first started making videos, it was like I was just wanting to document my journey like everybody else. But I was also the kind of person who, like, I was really not the type of person who liked to take medication. When I found out I was diabetic, the first thing I said to my doctor was, I don't want medicine. And he's like, all right, well, you got to eat keto. And there's a whole story that I've told 1,000 times on this channel, so I won't bore everybody with it again. But, you know, it wasn't until that didn't work for me that I was like, okay, what is there? And it ultimately led to MOUNJARO. But I wasn't going to put anything in my body without learning everything I could about it. Right. And so then I went to YouTube, and then all the other content on YouTube was about people's journeys, which is nice. Like, I took it, I had this side effect, I lost this much weight. That's pretty much what it was. I was like, I want to learn. And so then I started listening to the earnings calls, and that's when it really took off over on YouTube. So I started on YouTube, and then your story about TikTok is very similar to my story about TikTok, because I was over here for a good probably 8 months on YouTube all alone, no other social media platform, because I had once COVID hit, I was like, I got to turn the social media off.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And that I pretty much, even though I'm a marketer, I had like completely tuned out from social media. And then like a lot of the content that I was making here, I was being told like, well, I saw this on TikTok too. And I'm like, well, I did that video 2 weeks ago. And so I found out a lot of the information that I was making over here was getting regurgitated over there. So then I was like, basically I was drug kicking and screaming over there. So I've only been on TikTok since July. And so, but I was the same way. But TikTok, the thing about TikTok is it is, I think, addictive for a lot of people. But if you curate it the right way, it's good information. It can be good information. Right? So
Totally.
But I'm with you there. I didn't want any part of it, and I was definitely drug kicking and screaming over there. But I'm so glad that I went over there, because I'd be missing out on a ton of community and a huge audience of just a tremendous amount of people over there. And I know that you're experiencing that probably right now, because you're
it's amazing.
Everything you put on there is getting jumped on. Like, hey,
I made that video just putting out a call kind of for people to send me an email if they were experiencing problems finding Zepbound, because like I guess our first story on this came out over a week ago about the shortages. And like at that time, Lilly and the FDA weren't acknowledging it. And so it took a lot for us to report that the drug was in shortage without having those official confirmations. So like what we had to do was just call dozens of pharmacies, call wholesalers, call patients, call doctors. And then like we felt confident reporting that. But then
kudos,
I put
by
out
the way,
this.
that's a gutsy move. That's a gutsy move, because nobody in media has ever, I remember, because we didn't know each other at this point, and I remember seeing that article and going, wow, like that's different to see the media actually going, hey, this is not jiving with what we're seeing.
Right. And I was like, I then wanted to like put it out there into the community and be more directly in contact with the community. So I was like, this needs to go on social media. Our social media team was just not being helpful. So I was like, I'm going to make a video myself, even though I don't really know how to do this. But I got so many responses, so many emails of people that were like so willing to share their stories, so amazing, ready to hop on the phone at any second. So then when the FDA actually did declare the shortage, we had like all of these people that were ready to talk about their struggles and their frustrations like ready to go, because everyone like being a part of this community, like people are so helpful and so supportive and so ready to share their stories, that I was like, we had this amazing story together so quickly, where we had these anecdotes with like, this doctor and this other woman who was like struggling so much to find Zepbound. And I'm like, this just came together so quickly because of TikTok and because of having access to this community, which is, I mean, it's just such a resource for me when I'm like trying to stay up to date with patients who are on the front lines and who are experiencing this firsthand and know better than anyone else what's going on. So it's just, it's incredible to me.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you made the move over into the community. You're definitely the first member of the media to actually like insert yourself into the community and go, hey, like, I want to hear your story and I want your stories to be told.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful. And I think that that's going to be a game changer, not only for the work that you do, which was already great, but for the community as well. Just again, like one more way for our voices to be heard and to get the patient perspective out there, hopefully all the way up to the upper echelons of these companies, so that we're not just reports on a piece of paper that they look at. It's like these are human beings, human lives, and just to put faces with the people that are benefiting from the medication, but then also like in this current time, really struggling. Like there's a lot of people experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress. And, frankly, there are people who are just looking in desperate directions for, a solution because they can't find their medicine, and thinking that they're going to get something that's completely an equivalent that isn't. And I think that's the real danger here. And I think that's why the vials will get released, because I think that Eli Lilly does see that. And I think at the core of both Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, like I followed these companies both as closely as you have for the last at least 18 months, probably closer to 2 years at this point. And they both seem like companies that have really good core values. Especially Novo Nordisk, man. I listened to the Novo Nordisk earnings call. That's not what they called it. It was like a forward-looking thing for the year, or actually, I think it was the opposite. It was like looking back at 2023. But they were talking about these reports that they do internally for their employees to measure employee stress levels. And so they're talking about the sustainability in their company, not only in ways where they actually like they have programs where they recycle their pens,
Yes,
but like programs where they're like, we think it's really important to the sustainability of the company that our employees aren't stressed out. And so these are the metrics we look at, and this is how they're improving, and this is what we can do to improve. And I just thought, wow, that is amazing that they're like considering that. None of us, like, honestly, if you're in the chat tonight and you've ever thought once about the person that's making your medicine, let me know. Because I know I sure didn't until I heard that earnings call. I was like, that's super cool. So I think they're good companies. I think that they do want to do the right thing. And I think putting faces with the people who use their medication is a huge thing, and your platform and your voice in that is super important. I'm so glad that you've seen the value in kind of immersing yourself into the community.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm so grateful for this. And one kind of fun fact, I don't know if you've looked into like Novo's pen recycling program anymore. They don't do this in the US because I mean we just like don't have the same recycling sort of program and infrastructure as other companies. But in Europe, Novo actually recycles the pens and makes them into furniture. And they've partnered with this like Danish furniture company to make furniture out of the pens. And so you can get like chairs and I think like planters and all of these other things. And I'm like, can like an Ozempic chair, it just sounds like I'm like, I want that. That's
I have
so
to have
cool.
that chair. That chair should be like a prop on this set, 100%.
You need that chair. Yeah.
Yeah. Like IKEA, but everything's made out of Ozempic pens.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Oh man. Yeah, I think I did know, and I think it's just the Ozempic pens, right? And it's just
I
over
think
in
so, yeah.
But still, I mean, you think about just a tremendous, like, I'm not like somebody who gets loud about like the earth and all that stuff. Like, I think it's important to take care of things, and this is just an obvious one. Like, what did we say earlier? 1.6 million of these extra a month on top of what they're making. I don't know what the number is of what they're making now, but 1.6 million more are adding each month. And that's all going into the landfill. All of them. Millions and millions and millions of these. It's not necessary. That's an unnecessary waste. When we know, like, people are, I thought for a while, I was like, MOUNJARO vials make sense because diabetics are used to insulin syringes. Diabetics are used to pulling insulin, and insulin's way more dangerous to self-dose than these are.
Yeah.
But, I just like, that makes sense to me. But shoot, so many, if you go to the TikTok world, especially, I would venture a guess to say that most people who are at least making content on TikTok now are on compounds.
Yeah.
So they're drawing it up. They're figuring it out. So anyways, I'm hopeful. I'm so thankful that you were willing to shine the light on the release the vials thing. I think the needle's moving on this, no pun intended. I think that, not necessarily that we've done it. I'm sure the wheels have been in motion on this for a while.
Yeah.
But, I'm so glad that voices are being heard and that the struggle that we are going through is being heard. And your voice is so important to that. So with that said, is there anything that you would like to say to the community as far as, things that you're interested in hearing from the community, or, the floor is yours to say whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, like, everything, people can email me about whatever it is, even if you're like, I don't know if this is interesting or not, or I don't know if it's important. Like, it probably is, or, I'm still happy to hear about it and hear you out and hear your story. Email me, DM me, call me, whatever it is. I know, Dave and I, we were just talking a little bit about this, and we've talked offline about it too, but compounding has become such a big thing. Like, it is, so many people are turning to this because of the shortages and because of insurance coverage and just various different things, maybe not being able to get a prescription from a doctor. Like, it's becoming a bigger thing. And if people want to talk about that as well, that's something I'm interested in and interested in learning more about as well. Anything and everything. And I'm so appreciative to anyone who's willing to share their stories with me and reach out. It's amazing.
Awesome. So most of the views that this video tonight will get will be within the next year, right? So what we'll do is, if you want to send me whatever method of connecting that you want people to have, whether that's an email address or a DM to your TikTok or whatever, we'll throw that in the description of this video so that folks can reach out to you with whatever it may be that they might think might capture your interest on the matter. And again, I just want to say thank you for the article that you did this week. That was so kind of you to highlight that. So kind of you to give us time tonight, especially being home with your family. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of the whole community. Your work that you're doing over at Bloomberg it stands out because it's just different than what anybody in the media is doing when it comes to covering this issue. And so we appreciate the voice that you're lending to the community and the perspective that you're giving to the larger conversation. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. This is amazing. I can't wait to tune in every week now. This is incredible. And thank you for having me. And
you have an open invitation. Yeah, absolutely. And anything that you feel like is newsworthy or noteworthy that you'd like us to cover, especially on the podcast, because I do a podcast that drops usually every Tuesday morning, and it's very news focused.
Awesome.
So we're always covering whatever's latest and greatest there. We'll make sure that we follow you closely. And the one thing that y'all should know that you can do is, if you go over to Bloomberg, it's just $1.99 a month. I think it's pretty cheap to subscribe to Bloomberg. And then you can actually subscribe to Madison's feed. So every article that Madison publishes, you will be able to get an update through your email. And so you can check those out as they drop. So I would highly recommend that anyone does that. We'll throw a link in the description for that as well. Thanks again for being here. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your week with your family.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Dave. This is so great. Thanks for all that you do too.
I love doing it. So I think we both share that in common.
Yeah.
We both obviously have a passion for this, and it never gets old. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Madison Muller from Bloomberg. What a week this has been, right? Can you believe it? So Release the Vials gets published in Bloomberg, and then I fire off a text to Madison. I say, hey, so I have this little YouTube show. She's like, absolutely, I'll do it. So such a cool thing for her to not only have highlighted that, but then to given her time to the community tonight. You got to follow her over on TikTok. I'll make sure that I link that in the description. Maybe one day she'll start a YouTube channel too. That would be cool. But you got to check out her work over on Bloomberg. I'll make sure to link that in the description of this video as well. What a fun night this was. What an amazing night this was. You as a community, I say it every week, that you are the best part of what I do here on the pen. You're the reason that I do what I do. I'm so grateful for the platform that you all have given me to just share the information that I learn. And for those of you that contribute in so many ways, there's so many of you that send me articles every day. There's so many of you that send me encouraging texts and emails and let me know how this piece of information or that piece of information helped you along on your journey. It is an honor that you have bestowed upon me to be able to bring you this information. And I'm so grateful for it. So grateful for all of you for being a part of what we do here on the pen. I hope that you all have a great week. A great rest of your week. We're looking forward to the next couple of weeks here on the channel where hopefully we will hear about the vials being released. Hopefully we'll get a lot of great news. But until next week, may the Lord bless you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious. And we will catch you in the